Greetings, great people, or great Abyssinian people. Today, our question is, how do we calculate the effects of our enslavement? Now, many formulas to determine the psychological effects of our generational enslavement have been sought for decades, and many of our scholars have concluded that these effects are real, harmful, and very dangerous to our well-being and our community. In this clip, taken from CNN June 2nd, 2014, we are going to hear from a Western medical expert who conclude that if one is held as a captive, even for a short period, it will have a long-lasting and traumatic effect if they are not treated timely, properly, and professionally. If one is held as a slave, things will be much worse. We are going to hear about an American soldier named Bo Berdahl. He was captured in Afghanistan and held by the Taliban for 5 years. Now we should keep in mind that Berdahl was not innocent. He was a soldier on a kill and destroy mission thousands of miles away from home when he was captured. In captivity, Berdahl was under no pressure. All he did was eat, sleep, read, and exercise. He did no forced or hard labor. He was not beaten, tortured, or abused. So, let's listen to this American medical expert on CNN. And this expert is going to tell us about the overwhelming problems Bo Berdahl will face after just 5 years of captivity.
You know, when you look at this, and you were saying something earlier this week that really stood out to me. You said even though he will come home not missing a limb, you have to look at it and look beyond that not being gone, because so much of him has been taken. The emotional trauma, the mental trauma. Talk to us about that, because I think for so many people, they may see him and it may look like the Bo Berdahl they knew.
Well, and that's the classic way I try to describe post-traumatic stress issues, is that most of it is psychological if it's not physical and you can't see it. Mm-hmm. And many times over the years from any war deployment, when people come back with emotional scars, you don't see those scars and you have to read through that. So, you know, he's been through 5 years of trauma, regardless of what happened, how it went down.
Right.
But he's going to have a new awakening and a different kind of trauma, even getting back to his family, because it's such a different scenario than he's been used to. And there's an acclimation time, a debriefing time, and that process just takes a period of time, and everyone is different on how they matriculate through that process.
I did want to talk to you a lot about that acclimation, because, you know, in terms of that reuniting with their family, that is not the first step at all. This, I think, is what officials call the third step in this long process. But a lot of times when someone who has been in a terrifying scenario like this, they can only really reunite with their family at first for a moment of minutes. It is that overwhelming.
Well, you have to look at it like exposure overload. You know, I mean, he's going through a step-down process to make sure medically that he's okay, nutritionally as a part of that he's okay, psychologically that he's okay. But there's nothing like seeing a family member or something familiar to him from 5 years past or 8 years past, whatever it really was, total. That will bring on a whole set of emotions, a different set of reaction, and you've got to take that in baby steps, because that itself can be very, very overwhelming and can actually put him back into a bad situation that he doesn't want to go to, and medical people don't want him to go to either.
And you know, we've been told by a senior U.S. official that indeed he is in well enough health that he could talk to his family on the phone from the hospital there in Germany. They could actually go there to meet with him in person. As far as we know, that hasn't happened yet. He hasn't talked to them on the phone, hasn't seen them there. Does that surprise you? Or is this going to be a matter of weeks before he's potentially ready to be reunited with his family? Maybe not until he's back here in the United States.
Well, first of all, it doesn't surprise me, because everyone grieves differently, everyone transitions differently, and it's not uncommon. I do a lot of this. I hear a lot of stories and help these individuals acclimate back to society. Right. And you really got to meet them where they are. Regardless of the situation, you've got to really take it slowly, and whether it's a phone conversation or a brief, in-person, meeting with his family, everyone is going to have to weigh in on that and make sure it's the safest thing for him and his recovery process that's going to take him the rest of his life.
Yeah, we appreciate the expertise. Of course, no one knows. Really, he's the only one that has these answers, but you have been around people in this situation before and have seen what it is like for them to go through it. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming in for us, Terry.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So, there you have it, black folks. A Caucasian expert concluding that there can be traumatic and negative psychological effects even after just 5 years of straight captivity, meaning no work was required and no abuse administered. But even after 5 years of that kind of captivity, this American medical professional say Birdall could still develop eating problems and sleeping disorders. Him say Birdall could still have difficulty using the bathroom, have loss of his vocal cords, loss of his accent. Him even say Birdall could forget his own language. Any of this sound familiar? Bo Birdall was a US soldier sent to kill people in Afghanistan. He was the aggressor when he got caught. If, as the medical experts say, this attacker can be so mentally afflicted and after just 5 years in captivity doing no work and getting no abuse, what would be the mental state of someone who was innocently captured at home? We should acknowledge that captivity and slavery are two different conditions, but they have one thing in common. In both situations, one is not free to leave. However, the conditions under which one is held are vastly different. Captives know they are set free sometimes, and this keeps their spirit up. But the enslaved know his only chance at freedom is to escape. So his mental state is much lower. What the doctor said about Birdall's overall condition was very grave, even though Birdall's situation could have been worse. When we were captured, we were at home with our families and our friends. We were not on a killing mission. Our capture will obviously cause us much more distress as a result of that, because we were innocent. We have no guilt. We were doing nothing wrong when we were pounced upon. Now, suppose we include some additional conditions on Birdall. Suppose he was underfed, kept up late and had to rise early in the morning. Suppose he had no books, newspapers or magazines and couldn't exercise. Would his condition worsen? Suppose we include some hard labor, some beatings, torture and abuse, sexually and otherwise, and on a regular basis. What would his condition be? Suppose a family member was brought to the same location and he saw them receiving 250 merciless lashes. What additional words regarding his mental condition would be included in the doctor's report? Suppose, like us, Bo Birdall saw his wife or children or parents being sold at the auction block to another plantation owner because the previous owner was trampled and killed by a horse he abused for years. So he's now witnessing the sale of a family member to someone from far, far away, being taken to where he knows not, maybe never to see them again. How would these circumstances reflect on Bo Birdall's mental assessment? Bo Birdall's medical report should be our general unit of measure. His medical report should be the yardstick we use to calculate our condition until it runs off the chart, because it will. This medical report by Western doctors about Bo Birdall after just 5 years of straight captivity has given us a window of measure to help us understand the effects of what happened to us after 500 years of not only enslavement, but enslavement that came with those ruthless additional conditions Bo Birdall did not have imposed upon him. Based on the standard used by Western medical professionals to measure the mental and physical health of Bo Birdall, the effects and subsequent reparations due for the damage white folks caused us during our enslavement cannot be calculated. As such, white folks will always be indebted to us. I share.